There is a moment every serious English learner reaches, where the textbooks stop helping, where the grammar exercises feel pointless, where you understand almost everything you hear and read, but something is still missing.
You are functional. You are proficient. But you are not yet fluent. Not truly fluent. Not in the way that feels effortless and natural and completely your own.
And the frustrating thing is that nobody tells you what to do at this stage, because the strategies that got you to B2 will not get you to C1. The strategies that got you to C1 will not get you to C2. The game changes completely.
Today, we are going to share 10 strategic rules that will accelerate your journey from wherever you are now toward genuine advanced fluency. These are not beginner tips. These are not vocabulary lists. These are principles. Deep, structural habits that change the way your brain processes English.
I am Sophie.
And I am James. Welcome to Talk English Daily. And welcome to our most ambitious episode yet.
Before we begin, a word about what fluency actually means, because most learners are chasing the wrong target.
They think fluency means speaking without mistakes, or having a large vocabulary, or sounding like a native speaker.
None of those are fluency.
Fluency is the ability to communicate complex ideas spontaneously and naturally, without significant effort, without long pauses to search for words or structures, and without the other person feeling the strain of your processing.
It is effortless communication, and effortless communication is the product of deeply embedded patterns, not conscious knowledge. Automatic knowledge.
And here is the critical distinction that changes everything.
You can know a language and not be fluent in it. You can know every grammar rule, every vocabulary word, every idiom, and still freeze in a real conversation.
Because knowing and accessing are two completely different cognitive processes.
The 10 rules today are about building access. Automatic, instant access. So the language is there when you need it, without you having to consciously reach for it.
Rule 1. The discomfort principle.
This is the foundation of everything that follows, and most people get it fundamentally wrong.
Most learners gravitate toward English content they can comfortably understand. They watch programs at their level. They read books that do not challenge them. They have conversations with people who accommodate their language level.
And they wonder why they plateau, why they stay stuck at the same level for months or even years.
Here is the neuroscience. When you encounter language you already understand without effort, your brain does not create new connections. It simply travels along pathways that already exist.
Growth happens in the gap between what you currently know and what you are trying to understand. Linguists call this comprehensible input plus 1, content that is slightly above your current level.
The deliberate practice of engaging with English content that genuinely challenges you, that requires genuine effort to understand, that makes you slightly uncomfortable with how much you are missing.
That is where fluency lives, at the edge of your comfort zone, not inside it.
So the practical rule is this. Every week, deliberately choose at least one English source that is clearly above your level. A podcast, a documentary, a novel, a lecture. Something that stretches you.
You will not understand everything, and that is precisely the point.
Rule 2. The identity shift.
This is perhaps the most controversial rule on this list. and it is the one that separates learners who reach fluency quickly from those who never quite get there.
Stop saying, I am learning English. Start saying, I speak English.
That sounds like self-deception.
It is not self-deception. It is identity construction. And research in second language acquisition is unambiguous. The learner's sense of themselves as a speaker of the target language directly predicts acquisition rate.
Learners who identify as English speakers, who think of English as a language they use rather than a skill they are building, acquire fluency significantly faster than learners who see themselves primarily as students of the language.
Because your identity drives your behavior. If you identify as a learner of English, you study English. You take notes. You do exercises.
But if you identify as a speaker of English, you use English. You communicate in English. You think in English. You live in English.
And it is the using, the communicating, the thinking and living that produces fluency, not the studying.
Try this right now. Say this sentence out loud. I speak English.
I speak English.
Not I am learning English. Not my English is not very good yet. I speak English.
Because you do. You are doing it right now.
Rule 3. The chunk rule.
This rule is grounded in one of the most important discoveries in applied linguistics of the last 50 years.
Native speakers do not produce language word by word. They do not construct sentences from individual components in real time.
They speak in chunks, prefabricated phrases, fixed expressions, collocations, language that has been stored and retrieved as a single unit rather than built from scratch.
Make a decision. Take your time. Burst out laughing. Bear in mind. To be perfectly honest. Get to the point.
These are not combinations of individual words that native speakers assemble every time they speak. They are stored as complete units and retrieved as complete units.
And this is why many advanced learners still sound slightly unnatural, even with excellent grammar and extensive vocabulary. They are still building language from individual words when native speakers are retrieving pre-built chunks.
The strategic rule is to deliberately learn English in chunks rather than individual words. When you encounter a new word, do not just record the word. Record the phrase it typically appears in, the collocations, the fixed expressions.
You do not just learn the word decision, you learn make a decision, come to a decision, reach a decision, reverse a decision, and you learn them as units.
This one change in how you record and memorize new language will accelerate your fluency more dramatically than almost any other strategy.
Vocabulary time. 4 advanced vocabulary words from this section.
Word 1. Prefabricated. Prefabricated means manufactured in advance, already made and ready to use. In language learning, prefabricated phrases are chunks of language that you store and retrieve as complete units.
Native speakers rely heavily on prefabricated language in spontaneous conversation.
Repeat. Prefabricated.
Prefabricated.
Word 2. A collocation. A collocation is a combination of words that naturally and frequently occur together. Words that native speakers instinctively pair together.
Heavy rain is a collocation. You would not say strong rain in English. Commit a crime is a collocation. You would not say do a crime.
Repeat. A collocation.
A collocation.
Word 3. Spontaneous. Spontaneous means happening naturally without planning or prior thought. Fluent speech is spontaneous. It does not feel prepared.
She is a spontaneous speaker. Her language flows naturally and effortlessly.
Repeat. Spontaneous.
Spontaneous. Word 4. To plateau. To plateau means to reach a level and stop improving. To stay at the same stage for an extended period without making progress.
Many learners plateau at B2 because they continue using the same strategies that got them there.
Repeat. To plateau.
To plateau.
Rule 4. The emotional encoding rule.
This rule is based on what neuroscientists call emotional memory consolidation, and it is one of the most underutilized principles in language learning.
When you experience something emotionally significant, when you feel genuine surprise or laughter or sadness or excitement, your brain releases neurotransmitters that strengthen the neural pathways associated with that experience.
In practical terms, vocabulary and phrases acquired in genuinely emotional contexts are retained far more effectively than vocabulary studied from a list.
I have a very clear example of this from my own French learning. I spent weeks trying to remember the French word for embarrassed. Could not make it stick.
What happened?
I used the wrong word in a real conversation with a French colleague and said something completely inappropriate by accident. The correct word, and the memory of the moment, is permanently encoded. I will never forget it.
Embarrassment as a learning strategy.
The most effective kind. The strategic rule here is to deliberately seek English experiences that generate genuine emotion, not passive learning, emotionally charged encounters with the language.
Watch English films that genuinely move you. Read English books that genuinely grip you. Have English conversations about topics you genuinely care about. The emotion is not a distraction from learning. It is the mechanism of learning.
Rule 5. The output first rule.
There is a long-standing debate in second language acquisition research between comprehensible input and output as the primary driver of fluency.
And for many years, the input hypothesis dominated. The idea that if you expose yourself to enough comprehensible language, acquisition will follow naturally.
And input is absolutely essential. Nobody disputes that. But research increasingly demonstrates that output, actually trying to speak and write in the language, accelerates acquisition in ways that input alone cannot.
Because when you attempt to produce language, you immediately discover the gaps in your knowledge, the moments where you reach for a word or structure and it simply is not there.
And those gaps create what researchers call a noticing function. Your brain is primed to acquire exactly the language it discovered was missing. So the next time you encounter that word or structure in input, you acquire it far more readily.
In practical terms, for every hour of listening and reading, aim for at least 30 minutes of genuine output. Speaking, writing, recording yourself, anything that forces you to produce language rather than consume it.
Rule 6. The strategic silence rule.
Here is something that surprises almost every English learner when I tell them.
Native speakers do not speak without pausing. They pause constantly, strategically, deliberately.
But most learners fill their pauses with filler sounds. Because silence feels dangerous. It feels like evidence that they do not know the language well enough.
The reality is precisely the opposite. Strategic silence communicates confidence, thoughtfulness, and authority. Filler sounds communicate nervousness and uncertainty.
Listen to the most articulate and persuasive English speakers in the world. Politicians, academics, lawyers, broadcasters. They pause before important statements. They let silence do the heavy lifting before a key word.
The practical rule is simple but counterintuitive. When you feel the urge to say or instead, pause. Just stop completely. Breathe. Think. Then speak.
The pause will feel much longer to you than it does to the person listening. And what they hear is not a learner struggling for words. They hear someone who chooses their words carefully. Those are completely different impressions.
Rule 7. The register rule. This is the rule that most clearly distinguishes B2 from C1.
Register is the variety of language used in a particular social context. Formal, informal, academic, colloquial, professional, intimate.
Advanced English learners often have an excellent grasp of one register, usually formal or semi-formal English, because that is what textbooks teach.
But native speakers shift registers constantly and unconsciously. They speak differently to their boss than to their close friend, differently in a presentation than in a text message, differently at a formal dinner than at a football match.
And here is the critical point. The vocabulary that marks each register is often completely different, not just in formality level, but in the entire set of expressions used.
For example, in formal English you might say, "I would appreciate it if you could assist me."
In informal English, you would say, "Could you give me a hand?"
In very casual British English, you might say, "Any chance of a hand with this?"
Same request. 3 completely different registers. And using the wrong one in the wrong context sounds more unnatural than making a grammar mistake.
The strategic rule is to deliberately study and practice multiple registers, not just formal English, not just casual English, the full spectrum.
Rule 8. The deep narrow rule.
Most people approach English learning breadth first. They watch a documentary about nature, then read a news article about politics, then listen to a podcast about technology, then watch a comedy series. Wide exposure across many different topics.
And this feels productive because you are constantly encountering new content.
But research suggests that for advanced learners, deep, narrow immersion in a single topic area produces faster acquisition than broad, shallow exposure.
If you choose one topic and immerse yourself in it for an extended period, reading about it, listening about it, watching content about it, discussing it,
you begin to acquire not just the vocabulary of that topic, but the discourse patterns, the way ideas are structured and expressed in that domain, the rhetorical conventions, the characteristic phrases.
and you begin to encounter the same vocabulary and phrases repeatedly in different contexts, which dramatically accelerates consolidation in memory.
Rule 9. The mistake acceleration rule.
And this might be the most important rule for learners currently at B2 or C1. There is a direct and measurable correlation between the number of mistakes a learner makes and the speed of their progression.
The learner who makes the most mistakes, who attempts the most ambitious language, who pushes into conversations and topics beyond their current comfort, progresses significantly faster than the cautious learner who only speaks when certain of correctness.
Because mistakes are not evidence of failure, they are evidence of attempt. And attempt is the only mechanism through which acquisition occurs.
Fear of error is the single most powerful inhibitor of progress at the advanced level, and it is entirely self-imposed.
The strategic rule is to deliberately practice what researchers call pushed output, attempting to express ideas that are beyond your current comfortable level, using structures and vocabulary you are not entirely sure of, making ambitious attempts that will inevitably sometimes fail.
And celebrating those failures as precisely what they are: evidence that you tried something new, evidence that you pushed, evidence that you are growing.
Rule 10, the native texture rule. And this is the rule that nobody talks about.
This is the final frontier of fluency, and it is almost completely absent from English teaching materials.
When you listen to native speakers talk naturally and spontaneously, you notice that their speech is filled with certain recurring features that have very little grammatical content.
Well, I mean, sort of, actually, I suppose. Mind you, having said that, to be fair, I reckon it is just that.
These are called discourse markers and hedges, and they serve crucial communicative functions. They organize speech. They signal attitude toward what is being said. They manage turn-taking. They soften assertions. They buy processing time without sounding uncertain.
And they are almost completely absent from the English of most advanced learners, even very advanced learners, which is why even genuinely proficient non-native speakers can sometimes sound slightly unnatural.
Because the texture is missing, the grain of natural speech, the small words and phrases that native speakers scatter throughout their conversation without even noticing they do it.
The strategic rule is to begin deliberately noticing and collecting these discourse markers from authentic speech, not from textbooks, from real conversations, real interviews, real podcasts, and then deliberately practicing their use in your own speaking.
Having said that, I would say it is sort of the most underrated strategy of all 10.
And you just used 4 of them in one sentence.
Did I?
Having said that, I would say, sort of, 4 discourse markers in one sentence, and it sounded completely natural.
Because it is natural. That is the point. They are such a fundamental part of spoken English that they emerge without conscious thought.
And that is what you are aiming for. Not the self-conscious deployment of tricks, but the genuine, unconscious naturalness of a speaker for whom these patterns have become automatic.
Vocabulary time. Advanced words from this final section.
Word 1. A discourse marker. A discourse marker is a word or phrase that organizes speech and signals the relationship between different parts of a conversation. Well, actually, however, mind you, having said that.
Skilled use of discourse markers is one of the hallmarks of truly fluent speech.
Repeat. A discourse marker.
A discourse marker.
Word 2. To hedge. To hedge means to soften a statement to make it less absolute or certain. I think, I suppose, sort of, kind of. It seems to me that hedging is extremely common in natural English speech.
I would say it is sort of the most important thing to learn. That is a hedged statement.
Repeat. To hedge.
To hedge.
Word 3. Proficiency. Proficiency means a high level of competence or skill in a particular area. Language proficiency is measured on the CEFR scale from A1 to C2.
Reaching C2 proficiency requires consistent, deliberate practice over time.
Repeat. Proficiency.
Proficiency.
Word 4. To consolidate. To consolidate means to make something stronger and more secure. In language learning, consolidation is the process of moving new language from short-term memory into long-term automatic use.
Regular revision helps to consolidate new vocabulary in memory.
Repeat. To consolidate.
To consolidate.
Now let us bring everything together. The 10 strategic rules for rapid English fluency.
Rule 1. The discomfort principle. Fluency lives at the edge of your comfort zone. Deliberately seek English that challenges you.
Rule 2. The identity shift. Stop saying, I am learning English. Start saying, I speak English. Identity precedes fluency.
Rule 3. The chunk rule. Learn phrases, not words. Collocations, not vocabulary lists. Store and retrieve language as units.
Rule 4. The emotional encoding rule. Seek emotionally charged English experiences. Emotional memory is permanent memory.
Rule 5. The output first rule. For every hour of input, 30 minutes of deliberate output. You cannot listen your way to fluency.
Rule 6. The strategic silence rule. Replace filler sounds with deliberate pauses. Silence signals confidence. Noise signals uncertainty.
Rule 7. The register rule. Study and practice the full spectrum of English registers. Wrong register is more jarring than wrong grammar.
Rule 8. The deep narrow rule. Immerse deeply in one topic area rather than broadly across many. Depth accelerates acquisition.
Rule 9. The mistake acceleration rule. Make more mistakes. Attempt more ambitious language. Fear of error is the greatest barrier between you and fluency.
Rule 10. The native texture rule. Study and practice discourse markers and hedges. The texture of natural speech is the final frontier of fluency.
10 rules. None of them are study harder or study more. Every single one is about studying differently, thinking about language differently, relating to English differently.
Because at the advanced level, it was never about how much time you spent. It was always about what you did with the time.
Now a question for you. Which of these 10 rules do you think will make the biggest difference to your English right now? Write your answer in the comments below. In English. As much detail as you like.
Subscribe to Talk English Daily for new episodes every week. And thank you for choosing to spend this time with us today.
Your English is already better than it was at the beginning of this episode. Not because of what you memorized, because of how you now think about the language.
Goodbye, everyone. Keep pushing, keep attempting, keep growing.
Goodbye. And remember, the discomfort is the progress.